Welcome to Growth Sparks, the podcast for health and wellness entrepreneurs and practitioners. Here we dive into founders' stories, strategies, and innovations that shape this dynamic industry. I'm your host, Riza Javellana, and today I'm very honored to have with me Tony Greco, one of Canada's leading fitness experts. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. We finally get the chance to meet and discuss some great stuff.
Absolutely a pleasure. Let's start off about your story. Tell me the time that you realized that fitness is your mission.
Well, I started actually in martial arts. That was my background. And I was doing martial arts since I was 13 years old. And then in 1995, I won a gold medal for Canada. And that was a really huge accomplishment for me. But it wasn't just about the gold medal, it was about the experience and the experience and the passion and the training. And this is where I said, wow, everybody should achieve this because everybody started talking about the runner's high when they're running. And I
Hmm.
said, all throughout the years, I was training 2 days a week before school. And I just found that feeling of what you get when you exercise should be shared with everybody. And that's when I said, wow, yes, the gold medal was a huge accomplishment, but it was just the feeling leading up to it that everybody should experience. And I said, you know what? I'm going to share this with people. So that's when I decided to start my business and said, this is about what people should be feeling because they're going to succeed at everything that they're trying to persevere at.
I love that.
Yeah.
And now you're training elite athletes and celebrities.
Yeah.
What makes the difference between someone who's just fit and to actually get to peak performance? Are there elements that's necessary?
Yeah, I think fitness now, you don't have to convince people to get fit now. It's almost like if you're not doing some kind of movement, people are like, what do you mean? Like you don't exercise? What's wrong with you? Kind of thing, right? Whether it's a yoga class to walking to skiing to weights, whatever it is, some kind of fitness regime. But I always tell people I don't teach fitness. I transform bodies, I uplift spirits, and I strengthen minds because everything stems from the mind. And what I mean by that is that everybody's involved in some kind of fitness regime, but you really need the discipline that comes from your mind. You need to see the progress, which is going to create interest. And that's what keeps you going. And that's one of the things that I thrive on. And I think part of that is because I don't like to lose. I don't fear anything. I run with fear. I don't let it ruin me because people hold back. I'm that kind of guy. I love pain because I see pain as a comfort thing. And that's what I translate to my clients when they're not, let's say they're in a rut where they're not seeing results. I'm like, this is why we're going to get through this threshold. And then they see the results and they create a little bit more progress. So it's a whole combination that I deliver with the science behind the training. That's why it's all a transformation and a mind strengthening and a spiritual change in the individual. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's made me and my business who I am today.
So, mindset, more and more we are hearing about the importance of mindset. I had to recognize that myself as I shifted from corporate
Yeah.
to doing my own thing. Was there ever a time where you had to unlearn your own beliefs to make you the man that you are today, the leader that you are today?
Great question. I was actually telling someone this the other day is that you see, we want to bring out the best to people. We want to deliver stuff. I think everybody's got great intentions. But one of the things that I think lacks is becoming a better listener sometimes, right?
Mm.
And I'll tell you what happened, where I'm going with this. So I was competing and I was in the ring fighting because I used to do a lot of kickboxing.
Mhm.
And my background, it was the karate discipline. So I had my coach, and my coach would be like, hey, you got to move like this in the ring. You got to do this. And in my head, I had that bad attitude to say, well, you think it's easy, you come in and do it. I wasn't listening. And I never won. I never won till I got my brown belt. And the only reason why I started winning is because I started listening
Mm.
and taking that into consideration. So as much as we all think we know everything, the more you learn, I say, the more you earn and the more you could return. And that's one of the things that I think this day has made me even become that leader in this industry is I don't stop learning. I've changed my whole way I trained people from 13, 15 years ago. I train a lot of high-end clients, a lot of athletes, you said, and some celebrity clients, but I've had to change. And the reason why I change is because the science is always evolving. And some people just stay where they are, and I think that's why they're where they are. And then some people change and become the leader of the pack. And I always like to lead. I like to lead by example. I don't teach anything that hasn't been tested or measured. So my favorite line to some of these coaches when some of these clients come in is like, well, how did you get that guy stronger? How did you do it? Tell me how you tested it? And they're like, what do you mean? I go, well, what are you doing? I just throwing weights and telling the client to do some weights. How do you know they have to do? So it just puts me in a really good position because not to take a stab at other coaches or trainers, but you got to know who you are, what you want, and you got to be able to share the progress with others. And if you're not testing, you're guessing. And I was just lucky enough that I was working with a guy at the University of Minnesota, Cal Dietz, who's a great mentor of mine. And he started this really good training called triphasic training. It's training three different tempos to generate maximum force of power. Now, I took all the data and all the research and I applied it to my own program. And now I've been having some great results with all my clients, including the athletes.
Great message there about always evolving, learning
Yes.
as you go, and sharing that to your customers to make sure that the business is always evolving. So, speaking of business, Tony, you had success in business. Historically, you had franchises, and now you've built TG Athletics. Tell me
Mhm.
about that journey and what's the secret of that success?
Well, I think it's been the consistency. It's having the passion, the grit, the resilience that any entrepreneur, I'm sure, has in their DNA. Where I think the difference between business and entrepreneurship is that businessmen will follow a plan. People that have brought my brand because I had 14 locations in Ottawa and two in Toronto, and it was
Hmm.
under Greco Lean and Fit centers, and we were one of the first that started that circuit style, way ahead of F45 and
Hmm.
Barry's boot camp. And I remember people telling me, oh, this guy's crazy. What is he doing? Circuit training, and it doesn't work. But inside me, I had that fuel and that passion that I believed in. And it created a culture, it created a community, it created a place where people were working out, having fun. And we grew it to 14 locations in Ottawa, two in Toronto.
Hmm.
And then we had an equity firm out of New York to buy our brand about 10 years ago. So the secret is the consistency, the system, being able to adapt to change really easy. Like, COVID wasn't great and you had to pivot and just have that resilient attitude and that grit. And that's what entrepreneurs do because they believe in their ideas. Everybody's got great ideas, but a lot of people
Hmm.
don't believe it to follow through. And if you have that idea that you truly, truly believe in, then you could share that passion with others. Then everything happens because you're creating a vibration. Everybody wants to be attached to you. And I hear it all the time. You're always full of energy. You're full of energy. Well, why wouldn't I be full of energy, right? I don't want to not be full of energy. And you just like to be around those people, right? So that's a big thing is consistency with a little bit of sacrifice leads to success, in my opinion, for a business.
That's great. Now, obviously, you've been very successful, but was there ever a time that business almost broke you? And were there things that you had to learn about yourself?
Oh yeah, when we had our third location, I remember that, we were 3 months behind in our rent, me and my business partner, and we're like, this is
Mm.
crazy. What are we going to do? And I was thinking of selling my car. He had a Harley Davidson motorcycle that was his dream and his passion as a young entrepreneur. And we're like, listen, we can't quit now. Look at how far we've come, right? And that's the other lesson I want to teach people is that you only really lose when you quit.
Mm.
You never really lose if you think of it, because it's not really about winning or losing. It's about what you learn, right? Because you can always keep going. So I think the mindset of understanding that was big, saying that our belief, we came this far, we sweat, we grind, we were in the trenches, we've changed people's lives, we've done this. How can we stop? Why? Because we're 3 months behind in our rent. So then we brainstormed and we used our positive energy to kind of re-pivot stuff. And then we started to rise again, right? And that's why my stories and beliefs are based on my experiences, because I'm that kind of guy that I think if you have a winning attitude, there's so many people around you that can help you. and want to help you. So there's really, you never really lose, right? There's no losing. You just got to keep going. And I think that's the reason why today we're where we are, because now going forward, like you said about transitioning to TG athletics, it was an easy pivot for me because I've been there. I've done it.
Mhm.
So I've learned what not to do. So that, I always tell people, you never make a mistake. It's always, you learn a lesson. Some lessons cost more than others, but it's just a lesson. So am I
Yeah.
going to be perfect? No. Am I going to make fewer mistakes right now? Well, I'm going to learn less lessons because I've learned a lot. And that's why my business has been flourishing a lot more, because I've taken the steps, and I'm not perfect, far from perfect, but I'm striving for that consistency that I talked about earlier. But there's a formula to do that. And that's learning more, grinding more, perseverance, getting people to help you and uplift you, surround you with great people and positive people, avoiding negative energy. This is all part of the recipe that goes into having a successful and that entrepreneur spirit.
Very wise words. You've obviously accomplished a lot. You've contributed significant impact to a lot of people. What are you most proud of at this point in your life?
Well, right now, I'm most proud of when I go around and I see that I've done my job. And my job was putting smiles on people's face, letting them appreciate their body. There's such a great feeling when I go around here and I say, hey, people see me like, hey, Tony, I remember you taught me how to do this. I lost 10 pounds. I feel so great. Oh my God, thanks so much. That's so rewarding. Is the giving back, it's, the gratitude of the acceptance of just accepting that knowledge and that passion that you have to help people. Because I think at the end, you're just a story. And whenever we leave, it's just like you were either that person that helped me or didn't help me. And that's just the great memories that we leave behind that eventually down the road, hopefully will never die. So that's really rewarding for me, is the success of the clients achieving what they're truly trying to achieve. It's so huge. I mean, the financial part is great. I get it. But it's funny because as you mature more, those things are not important. I really realized, because what is important is the time you spend with people that are around you, and the time that you spend training people and sharing experiences and sharing memories. That's really so important, because you can't buy time, right? So it's like there's a time in your life where it's not the financial gratitude, it's more the time and the friendships and the memories that you're building together as a community.
Beautiful. You had 14 locations. Now you have TG Athletics grounded in a
Yeah.
beautiful place just outside of Ottawa. What was the story behind that facility?
Well, throughout my years, I was always, like I said, the attitude of an entrepreneur, grinding and making things happen. And you get to a certain level where I think that your reputation, your successes, and you stop chasing the big things that you think are important. And now those things are chasing me, right? Like as a young
Mhm.
entrepreneur, you're chasing money, you're trying to make ends meet, you're trying to buy a fancy car, you're trying to buy a nice watch. And it's like you think that those things are really important. And if you show that success, then people will come through your door. But it's not like that. And
Mm.
you just got to be the best version of yourself, and those things will chase you. And I've been very blessed and grateful, because I said, I'm going to open up a facility that is going to be very private, very intimate, but you're going to get everything that you need. And the trust that I built all throughout the years, now I've been fortunate enough that those those successes are chasing me, and I can deliver and spend way more time on my qualities that I can give back to people. So I've been very grateful and blessed, and that's what separates. And also the science behind the training. We're not just guessing at stuff. Like a lot of the times, even in my younger years, it's not your fault. You're trying to do the best thing you possibly can, but you're always guessing, right? Because you're not evolving as fast as it's evolving. So like I said, keeping on learning and sharing that education with people. People see that, they see and they feel the passion, they feel your belief, and that's what separates TG Athletics from, I think, a lot of your regular fitness center. The other thing too that I just wanted to touch on is I know that most people think I work with just athletes and celebrities.
Mm.
But the majority of my clients are actually mainstream clients. And what I do is I take them from A to Z through a performance evaluation, an internal blood work requisition, where they will be able to see all the imbalances. I work very closely with a few doctors. And then based on the results, then we could structure a proper health plan for them. Because that's one of the things I was very blessed in my industry that I've learned is that, yes, physically you can lift weights and you could do stuff, but internally, how is that river? Is it polluted? What's lacking? And for women, especially with hormones imbalances, there's a huge difference and a sacrifice with behavior change. And I'm only telling you this because I've seen it in my industry. So that's why I want to share this through the voice of the podcast, is that you need to have that connection. I strongly recommend people that are in the field. I can definitely help them if they want to reach out through email. But this is what you have to do: is you have to connect the two: external, internal, physical, spiritual, and mentally, because that works together. But inside the body, this is where you have to do a blood requisition to see what's really going on there. That way you could treat those symptoms.
Tony, can this program be done virtually? So, for someone like me who's in Toronto, for example, that does not have access to your beautiful facility,
Yeah.
is that a program I can enroll in with you virtually?
You can. You can. There's a lot of people throughout the US. We have people in Australia. We have
Mm.
people in China that are doing virtual, and it's really simple. It's a one on one consultation. And then what we could do is send you the blood requisition through the doctor. You would go get your blood work. The doctor would read you all the results. And then based on the results, obviously would put the plan together. And it's so neat. I'll just give you just without getting too much into the science, but for instance, our first contraction when you come in, let's say you're doing a squat, we'll get you to do that squat 5 seconds down and then always explosive up. So what we're doing during that contraction, we call it the eccentric contraction, is we're lengthening and we're tearing tissue. It sounds kind of gross, but we're remodeling your tissue. And let's say you went to do blood work during that phase, they would see a big surge in your white blood cell that the doctor would be like, whoa, what's going on in there? There's a severe
Mm.
stress, which is actually a good thing. That's how in
Mhm.
depth we can get this stuff down. And it's so important. I strongly, strongly recommend people to do blood work every 6 months, if you can, obviously, just so that way it's just you're mentally more engaged in your well-being. Because the last thing you have is time and your health. And I always say true wealth is good health, right? That's really what
Yeah,
it's all about.
that's an excellent tip. This is the first time I've heard about it. Actually,
Yeah.
making sure that you are tracking your blood work as you're doing your fitness program. One, to make sure you understand what you really need, and also tracking that progress.
Yeah, because women are so hard on themselves more than men, but it's some women, they'll work out and they'll get on the scale and they're like, well, I still weigh the same. I'm like, yeah, but look at the way you're fitting in your clothes. Look at your density of, your muscles. You got better glute form. You have better posture. Yeah, but I weigh the same. But it's not about the weight. It's about muscle, right? Because
Yeah.
muscle, you need that density. The other big misconception, strength training. Oh, I'm going to get big. No, you're going to get stronger. And as you age, people lack two things: balance and strength. That's why they say as you get older, if you could avoid a fall, that is key. Because I remember speaking to a doctor years ago and they said, if you're 20 and you fall, you'll recuperate in a week or 2 weeks. He says, if you're 50 and you fall, you might take you 6 months to a year. If you're over 60, you might never really recover. Do you know what I mean? So it's those things are kind of lit a light in my head and said, this is really crucial. So that's why it's so important that you understand what strength training does, what the body is supposed to do, the way your blood flow is supposed to happen, your imbalances, even food itself. Some people might say, oh, I'm eating carrots. Well, maybe carrots might not be the food for you because you have a sensitivity that will cause this hormone to force this hormone. And then, it's like there's so much that goes into it. So that's why you have to be monitored by a doctor internally. And then you have to have the physical exercise by a trainer or a coach like me. And I also I specialize on the life coaching as well. But if not, then
Mm.
you have to have the mindset too, right? So it's that mind, body, spirit. We all hear it, we see it, but you got to understand it.
Yes, I love that holistic approach for sure. And more people are becoming aware of how important it is to approach your lifestyle, your health holistically. So I appreciate that. Is there anything you think that the wellness industry is getting wrong right now?
One thing is, it's unfortunate, but people just send out and give the wrong message because, again, it's the financial reward, right? For instance, for a product, I'll just give you an example, like a protein.
Mhm.
Everybody talks about protein, but protein, there's not enough knowledge. And because of the overwhelming of social media and advertisement, and it tricks the client, right? Oh, that's a good protein. Well, how do you know it's a good protein? So the misleading messages through the power of marketing, it's unfortunate. I get it, because yes, there's a revenue stream there, but I'm now at a point where it's like, again, I'm looking for the little things that make a difference, only because I've had the experience, right? So I wish the health industry would be a little bit more strict into eliminating little things that are not as healthy, that people presume that they're healthy, like additives and sugar. I see so much, I read so much labels, and I'm like, you're telling me that that's healthy? There's chemicals in
Mm.
here I can't even pronounce. So how the heck can that be healthy, right? So it's just being strict in the industry, and really showing that this is a health product. This is better for you. I could talk about so much, but because of the respect of time in our podcast, I think is that the misleading information of stuff that
Yeah.
is healthy, it really truly isn't healthy. That's the only little thing that bothers me. And I would just wish that most places would just go more with what truly is something good for that client.
The people who practice health and wellness and who provide these products should ideally be more conscientious. So, a very good note about this industry. Tony, where can people learn more about what you do in TG Athletics?
So they can follow me on my Instagram, Tony Greco TG, and even TikTok and Facebook. And then they can go to my website, www.tgathletics.com, or they can just Google Tony Greco.
Any last words to our audience?
Yeah, I'm gonna leave our audience that whatever you're thinking of pursuing, whether it's a new business or a new journey or a new transformation, is that you have to have three things. Number one is you have to have the vision. You have to have a clear vision of what you truly want. I asked this question. It's very easy, but very hard to answer. And the question is, who are you and what do you want? Right? Who are you and what do you want? And then the second value is the belief. What are your values and your belief? And then the third one is the mindset, because you're going to go through obstacles that hinder your positive growth. Not every day is going to be a good day, but you constantly have to believe that you can go through that detour. You can get through those obstacles that hinder their positive growth. And that requires one thing, and that's discipline. And that recipe should always be playing in your mind, kind of like a contraction when you're doing a bicep curl. It's not going to happen overnight, but if you keep doing the curls, your biceps get bigger. Well, if you keep registering and working that mindset self-talk, then you're going to know how to deflect and go through obstacles, because at the end of the day, only you can use the word and the letter I in a sentence. So it's all about you. It's not about me. This is about you. But you got to know who you really are and what you truly want.
Mindset, belief, and consistency. I hear that throughout this session with you, Tony. Very valuable words for all of us to learn. So thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you.
Likewise, and hopefully we can transform a few people's bodies and strengthen their minds after this.
I'm sure you've inspired them. Take care.
Thank you.